One of the most amazing examples of evolution was the origin of whales from land mammals over the past 50 million years. Even though they have fish-like bodies, whales are not fish, but mammals. They are warm-blooded, breathe air with lungs, and actually have hair in few parts of their bodies. They are fully committed to life in the ocean with amazing swimming and diving abilities, and no longer can live out of the water for very long. They must give birth to live young in the water. Their nostrils, having shifted from the top of their snouts to the top of their heads, make a blowhole. Despite being fully aquatic, there are many signs that whales had to evolve from land mammals, and in the past 30 years, numerous fossils have been discovered which show how this incredible transition took place. Even though humans had long classified whales as fish, it was the French naturalist Mathurin Jacques Brisson in 1756 who pointed out that whales have warm blood and lungs, not gills. The founder of modern classification, Linnaeus, picked this up from Brisson and put whales and mammalia in his 1756 edition of the Classification of Animals. Still, how whales evolved was a mystery. In the first edition of On the Origin of Species, Charles Darwin wrote, quote, "In North America, the black bear was seen by Hearne swimming for hours with wide open mouth, thus catching like a whale insects in the water. Even in so extreme cases as this, if the supply of insects were constant and better adapted competitors did not already exist in the country, I can see no difficulty in the race of bears being rendered by natural selection more and more aquatic in the structure and habits, with larger and larger mouths, till the creature was produced as monstrous as a whale." Darwin was widely misunderstood as saying that whales evolved from bears, but this was not what he said. He merely suggested a mechanism where a land animal could adapt to feeding on abundant small aquatic life. In the 1880s, William Henry Flower of the British Museum first suggested that whales had features in common with hoofed mammals, but that idea was way ahead of its time. Cut to the 1960s. A group of predatory hoof mammals called mesonychids were becoming better and better known, and the paleontologist Lee Van Valen knows the similarity of mesonychids' two-rooted triangular blade-like teeth to those of the earliest whale fossils. For the next 30 years, whales are thought to have originated from mesonychids. Then, in the late 1990s, two astonishing discoveries were made. First, molecular biologists looked at protein sequences and eventually DNA sequences, and over again, these data showed the closest living relatives of the whales was the hippopotamus. Then, in 2001, two independent paleontological research groups both reported discovering that two different fossil whales from Pakistan both had the distinctive double pulley astragalus ankle bone, a feature found only in even-toed hoof mammals, or artiodactyls, which included the hippos. These two independent lines of evidence converged to confirm that whales are artiodactyls and descended from the common ancestor with hippos. That group of common ancestors is a peculiar distinct group of taper-like artiodactyls known as anthracotheres, the direct ancestors of hippos, and very similar to the earliest whale fossils. Since the early 1990s, a remarkable series of ancestral whale fossils has been found which fills in all the gaps between the anthracotheres and the early whales. The oldest known is Indo-Hyas, from beds around 47 million years old in Pakistan. Known from a nearly complete skeleton, it was mostly terrestrial, but had a characteristic bony inner ear structure and dense rib and limb bones, both typical of whales. From slightly younger beds in Pakistan comes Pakicetus, also fully terrestrial, with the distinctive triangular blade-like teeth found in all primitive whales. From slightly younger beds in the same formation in Pakistan comes Ambulocetus natans, whose name literally means walking, swimming whale. Also known from a nearly complete skeleton, it was about 3 meters long, had a long whale-like snout and triangular teeth, but also still had 4 fully functional limbs with long fingers and toes, suggesting it had webbed feet. It was apparently a freshwater ambush predator, lurking just below the surface of rivers and lakes like a crocodile, and lunging forward whenever prey gets near enough. From Ambulocetus, a sequence of fossils shows a smooth transition from specimens with 4 fully functional land legs to smaller and smaller hind limbs. Dalanistes had 4 short legs with webbed feet and even more whale-like head. Remingtonocetus had even more reduced limbs, but they were fully functional. Rhodocetus was the first fossil where hind limbs are still present but no longer able to support their weight on land, so they had to be fully aquatic. The most spectacular of these early archaeocete whales was Basilosaurus, known from a complete skeletons found articulated just lying on the ground in Wadi Atotain, just to the west of the pyramids of Egypt. Basilosaurus had been known from incomplete specimens found in Alabama in the 1830s, but when complete skeletons were discovered, it turned out to be about 50 feet long. These complete specimens also showed that they had tiny hind limbs about the size of a human arm, too small to have any functional use, just a worthless vestige of their days when they had fully terrestrial hind legs. Today, you don't see hind legs on the bodies of whales, but the tiny useless remnants of their hip bones and thigh bones are still there if you see a whale skeleton that is mounted properly with all the bones present. They no longer attach to the spine and no longer serve any purpose other than to prove that whales once evolved from four-legged land animals. And once in a while, a genetic mistake occurs and whales are born with tiny external hind limbs that have no function other than showing that whales still carry the genes for hind limbs. The archaeocete whales vanished about 33 million years ago, but not before giving rise to two great radiations of living whales, the baleen whales or mysticetes, which filter feed plankton from their ocean, and the toothed whales or odontocetes, which include dolphins, porpoises, and sperm whales and their kin. The toothed whales had an enormous evolutionary radiation after they originated. Perhaps the most spectacular toothed whale of all was Leviathan melvillei, from beds around 10 to 15 million years old in Peru, but his teeth have also been found in South Africa, Australia, Germany, and even in Southern California. It was a fearsome predator with sharp conical teeth in both upper and lower jaws, and probably preyed on other whales or even the giant shark, Otodus megalodon. Baleen whales, or mysticetes, are the largest animals that have ever lived. Yet they themselves live on tiny prey in the plankton, mostly dense masses of crustaceans known as krill. They have a filtering device called baleen hanging down from their toothless jaws, which are made of keratin, the same substance that makes up your hair or fingernails. They feed by gulping up dense masses of krill in the ocean, then closing their mouths and forcing the water out through the sieve of baleen, using their enormous tongues and squeezing down their throat pouch and trapping their prey in the baleen. Once the water is all expelled, they swallow many tons of food with every gulp. Baleen whales also had an enormous evolutionary radiation over the past 20 million years. They come from animals like Janjucetus and Mammalodon from beds around 25 million years old in Australia, which still had teeth as well as key baleen whale features. The Aidocetidae is a family of primitive baleen whales which still have tiny teeth and baleen operating side by side. Even though adult baleen whales lack teeth today, their embryos start to develop tooth buds before resorbing them. The largest and most spectacular of all the baleen whales, however, is the enormous blue whale. It also filter feeds huge masses of krill, but rolling on its side and lunging into the krill cloud with its mouth open to capture dense masses of food in one gulp. At over 100 feet long and over 200 tons, it's the largest animal that has ever lived, much larger than the other whales and even the largest dinosaurs. Yet thanks to hunting, it is endangered along with many other species of whales. It would be truly tragic if these incredibly adapted, highly intelligent mammals vanished from our oceans just to feed seafood cravings of a few cultures.